Well, welcome everyone. Josh's Severe Weather. I'm a meteorologist in the Raleigh area, and we are gearing down on yet another winter storm here. Quite a difference from the last couple of winters for those of us here in parts of the Mid South. We are seeing brutal cold quickly surging southward into the plains. That is going to spread eastward here through the rest of the week. We're going to have quite a few interruptions in travel coming over the next few days, especially across Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, Virginia, and North Carolina, and maybe even Delaware as well. And that storm right now, as you can see behind me, is impacting the southern plains with heavy snow across portions of Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, and Arkansas. I'm mainly going to focus this video on what's to come here heading into Wednesday and Thursday. Not to ignore what's going on currently, but you all are stuck in the storm anyway. Not much we can do to fix that. But as always, I appreciate your time today, and thanks for being patient with me as the forecast has shifted and I had to travel. But here we are back on YouTube doing our best to make sure everybody understands what's coming. So let me share my screen with you all here and give me just a second while I load that up. And you can see here very clearly it's colder. This is not the air temperature. This is how much the temperature has dropped in just the last 24 hours. As much as 50 degrees colder today than it was this time yesterday in the Texas Panhandle. And that cold is coming into Dallas, Fort Worth, coming down into Austin, ATX, San Antonio, Houston. That is all expanding eastward, and temperatures are quickly plunging. And this cold outbreak, while not as cold as February 21, is still going to be brutally cold and could tax some of the power grid. So do be preparing for that if you already haven't. And you can see these are air temperatures, and it actually has warmed up in Montana and North Dakota from where it was when we started the day in the 30s below zero. We're only in the teens below zero. If you can tell the difference, let me know. I have never experienced that kind of cold. I have no desire to do that, to be honest with you all. It's just dangerous. And you can see that cold spreads all the way down here into Oklahoma and Texas with single digit temperatures. We're in the 20s just north and west of DFW. Those of you in South Texas in the 80s right now, you're about to be in for a huge shock as this cold continues to surge south and east. And we're going to see make its way here into the southeast over the next couple of days as a storm system tracks by to its south. Unfortunately, it's not just the air temperature that's of concern. It's what the wind makes it feel like, the wind chill. We've all heard about this term. And we see more than a third of the country that has wind chills in the single digits or colder, and about 15% of the country that has wind chills below 10 degrees below zero Fahrenheit. In fact, as cold as 34 below zero in portions of Montana. So it is brutal out there, and you can see the extreme here. It feels like it's 87 in Brownsville, and it feels like it's 10 below in Amarillo. So in the state of Texas alone, those wind chills, or what it feels like, is a 90-degree difference, a 90-degree spread, which is pretty much insane. If we take a look here at our current advisories from the National Weather Service, I'm going to start you with winter weather ones first here. The area in pink is under a winter weather advisory, meaning we're going to have at least some minor to moderate impacts, which could shut down schools here and cause dangerous travel. Now, the area in pink, the winter storm warning that goes from Kansas and Oklahoma eastward into the Carolinas and Virginia, that is the area that's probably going to be shut down here for at least a few days. In upper Michigan, that probably won't be the case. We're used to the snow up there, but certainly across the southern and central plains here, Kentucky and Tennessee, West Virginia. And it's not fair. Those of you that have had the flooding over the weekend, the severe weather as well Saturday, are unfortunately in the dark on this one here. And it's just going to get colder and colder over the next few days. So this is probably going to be the most impactful system this winter for some of these folks, just due to the fact that what's already happened as we look back to last week with all the flash flooding, all the severe weather across portions of Alabama, Tennessee, and certainly the major floods over Kentucky, West Virginia. And if I'm leaving you out, believe me, I am not trying to. I just can't get everyone. But just know that you all are in my thoughts and prayers. I wish there's something more I could do to help other than let you know what's coming and let you know what's happened. Here's a look at the cold that's coming. And these are not frost and freeze advisories. These are, in fact, extreme cold warnings covering pretty much the entire line of the central United States here, from Montana on down to central Texas. I don't know why South Dakota's in an advisory and not a warning. You got to tell me what the difference on that one is. But look, it's brutal. And you can see the extreme cold watches all the way down here towards the Houston area, Bryan College Station, Texas. We have freeze watches across much of deep South Texas until we hit the Rio Grande Mexican border. And we do have cold weather advisories all the way into Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, and in parts of the interior of the Northeast. So about a quarter to a third of the country's got extreme cold out there now, and I expect this will continue to grow. And we continue to have river flooding ongoing here in the Ohio and Mississippi River valleys and some of the other tributaries over portions of the southeastern United States due to all the rain we've had over the last couple of weeks. So currently, this is our satellite image. You can see where our storm system is centered here, and lots of cloud cover beginning to stream eastward into the Carolinas. And not a bad day today in the southeast ahead of this storm. In fact, it's warmed up a little bit, but as the clouds roll in tonight and then as the cold air presses behind it, temperatures are heading downhill quickly here overnight into tomorrow morning. And then once that precipitation moves in, it's not going to warm up anymore tomorrow unless you're right along the immediate coastline here. It will warm up in Florida, but south of our boundary here, that's going to be stretched across the northern Gulf of America. Yes, that's now the official name. Don't get me started on that. But you can see here that precipitation is going to spread across the Gulf, and it will be pretty heavy over parts of Louisiana and the northeastern Gulf states here overnight tonight into tomorrow. So you can see where the snow area is right now. That's going to spread right through the mid-Missouri Valley and over into the lower and middle Ohio Valley here as we get to the overnight hours tonight. There is going to be an area of some frozen precipitation, including sleet, freezing rain, maybe a sloppy mix over southern Arkansas, and that could make its way all the way down into far northern Louisiana and north central parts of Mississippi and Alabama. As this system comes out of the Gulf, we will see new low pressure forming over what's called a baroclinic zone off the Carolina coastline, and this will allow stronger precipitation rates. But the big question mark, the thing we've been struggling with in our forecast guidance here is how strong does that low get and how close to the coast does it get? Isn't that the problem every single time? I really feel like it is. I feel like I'm a broken record here, but new low pressure forms. So there's going to be energy transferring from the Gulf of America over to the Atlantic side here, and it may skip over portions of the Piedmont. I don't know exactly how that plays out. But this is one of those kind of catch-22s if you're in places like Raleigh and Fayetteville. The longer it takes for that low pressure system to jump to the coast, the more we get on the western edge of things, and things end up being heavier east of the I-95 corridor, meaning we kind of miss out on that heavy snow around the western part of the triangle, the Triad, and Charlotte. The stronger the low pressure system gets, then the more warm air aloft that comes back in from the coast. And instead of a pure snowstorm, we see more icing problems. Neither is really going to be great and not going to make anybody happy. But that's kind of the state of the weather at this point, and there's nothing we can really do to fix that. But north of where this low tracks, there will still be an area of what could be very heavy snowfall later tomorrow night, and into the early portion of the day Thursday. And right now, that area looks to be aimed at the Hampton Roads area and maybe the eastern shore of Virginia as well. Behind this system, a lot of cold air floods in, so we are going to have instability, scattered heavier bursts of snow across portions of Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, West Virginia, even southern Pennsylvania and northern Kentucky. And this will make for some very treacherous travel here overnight, tomorrow night, into the first portion of Thursday. And some of our newer model guidance takes the energy from this and moves it across the mid-Atlantic region, meaning even though the bulk of the storm is offshore by Thursday morning, there may be another burst of snow moving into the Carolinas, including the Charlotte area, and all the way up to places like Baltimore and northeastern Maryland, maybe into Delaware and South Jersey as well. And that could eventually try to sneak up the coast of New England here later on Thursday. I don't think it's a big deal for New York City and on northward, but maybe for the south coast of New England and maybe Atlantic Canada, something to watch here as well. We're going to talk about severe weather threats. Not a big deal, but there's a lot of heavy rain coming. I would not be shocked if we saw a little bit of severe weather as you look at our model here. It's going to be very wet tonight across South Louisiana, far southeast Texas, southern Mississippi. And then that area of rain does leave in the morning, and it dries out in New Orleans as it turns colder. And we just have a soaking rain over Alabama, South Georgia, and northern Florida here on Wednesday morning. As this line of storms crosses the eastern Gulf, it does weaken some when it moves onto the Bay Area and Sarasota, Fort Myers. There could be a few thunderstorms. There may be some gusty winds, but it doesn't look like it's going to be nearly as bad as where it could be over the oil platforms here near the Louisiana coastline. You can see here now the northern portion of this, where the darker blues are indicating heavier amounts of snow. There certainly is going to be some higher end snow potential, especially with as cold as it's going to be here behind this storm system in Tennessee, maybe even far northwestern Mississippi and far eastern Arkansas here. This is about 3 in the morning Eastern, 2 in the morning Central tomorrow. And then as this moves into the mountains, you can see it gets disrupted some. There's a little bit of a dry spot in here, and the HRRR is a little bit drier than the other models, and it may end up being wrong. I'm not really sure yet. But you can see here, As the new low pressure area takes over, we do see things ramping up towards the eastern portion of the Carolinas and snow rates picking up here over the Hampton Roads region. It could get really nasty here. Not a blizzard, but certainly very heavy snow here and heavy wet snow until the colder air arrives. So we're going to be watching how this fills in here tomorrow night and early Thursday morning. Then the next wave of snow, which could get all the way down to places like Columbia and Camden and maybe even Myrtle Beach and Florence here on Thursday morning. I don't know if it's going to shut down schools down there, but if there's a squall that comes through here, it could certainly make for difficult travel. Again, that's not my decision to make. We'll leave that up to the schools. I hope they do it right, of course. But we could have some impacts that extend into Thursday here in the Carolinas and in the Mid-Atlantic region. And then Friday, we have to deal with a cold behind it. Here's the NAM model. Let me zip this back a little bit. You can see the NAM looks different than the HER. It fills in the precipitation a lot more quickly here tomorrow around midday in both Raleigh and Greensboro and Winston-Salem and High Point, and even the Charlotte area. You can see south of the North Carolina state line here, we are primarily looking at cold rain, which could try to freeze up here in northeastern portions of South Carolina, including the PD River area. But you can see it's just a wintry mess here over eastern North Carolina, over northeastern South Carolina. But the NAM definitely has more snow coming in between across the Piedmont and across the south side of Virginia. And then the next wave that comes in here Thursday morning as well. And you can see it does include some snow all the way down to the Midlands of South Carolina and into the Sandhills of North Carolina, and again across eastern Carolinas and southeastern Virginia on Thursday. So kind of two pieces of energy that we're watching here. The main surface low that comes in Wednesday afternoon and leaves early on Thursday, then the upper level system behind it that could shock some of us here with some stronger wind and some heavy snow. That comes Thursday morning and then moves offshore Thursday evening and then tries to find its way up the East Coast, which I'll show you here on the NAM real quick. Bear with me just a second, but you can see here, unlike the models from a few days ago, which had a big snowfall around New Jersey and Delaware, they have, of course, shown this trend to the south that started here after, of course, I did my video. And you will see we're trying to have a comeback here where maybe Long Island, maybe coastal New Jersey, and southeastern Mass, and even southern Rhode Island here get in on some heavier snow Thursday night. So if you have plans to travel to southern New England Thursday night, Friday morning, you'll want to keep a close eye on this, as it certainly could still shift one way or the other. I don't think for Maine or New Brunswick this is a big deal, but for coastal sections, we do need to be watching. So here's our risk for marginal severe weather through tonight. A small chance for a tornado in far southern Louisiana. It's mainly Terrebonne, Lafourche, and Plaquemines Parish here. A little bit of wind potential as well. We could see some stronger winds with these storms near the Gulf Coast, and some hail this evening around southeast Texas, then overnight in southern Louisiana. And you can see on the HER model here where things could get nasty around Houston and Beaumont here this evening, 8, 9 o'clock, and then things move away from Texas here overnight. I'm going to roll this eastward into Louisiana for you all to be able to see here. And let me make this easier to see. You can see we're going to have scattered showers early tonight, then heavier bursts of rain moving northeastward over south and central Louisiana and southern Mississippi this evening. Overnight, most of the threat moves east of the region, except maybe still in St. Bernard, Plaquemines, Eastern Orleans Parish, St. Tammany, and then eventually the coastal counties of Mississippi. We have to watch that. But it is pretty much out of here by the time we get to early on Wednesday. We do still have a chance for some weather tomorrow with lightning still possible along the central and eastern Gulf Coast. Not really far south Florida, but certainly central Florida. We'll have to watch for that. And let me take you back to the 18Z model of the HER here. You can see heavy, soaking, chilly rain over northern Florida and southern Georgia and Alabama early in the morning tomorrow. Then we're going to have to watch a few storms popping up around Daytona, but here's our main line, and it is weakening as it moves across the eastern Gulf and heads into southwestern portions of Florida towards tomorrow around dinner time or so, and then falling apart before it gets to South Florida overnight. So that is our next front. We've got to be concerned about some ice here. These are total ice amounts. I'm going to show you all the NAM model because it's kind of a middle ground at this point. And two areas of greatest concern: southern Arkansas, northern Louisiana, and Mississippi, the Delta area, Ark-La-Miss, up into northern Alabama, northwest Georgia, and maybe even up to Chattanooga. We do have this potential here to see a little bit of freezing rain here overnight into tomorrow morning. Then the next area we're watching is going to be in the Carolinas here, as that milder air aloft comes up and over the colder air at the surface here on Wednesday afternoon and Wednesday night. Here's a closer view so you all can see what these totals are going to look like here. I'm going to show you Georgia and South Carolina first, just so you all can see here. Generally, a light amount of ice, but enough to cause problems, especially towards Fayetteville and those areas, Whiteville here. Looking at Alabama and Mississippi, total snowfall on the, or not snowfall, ice here. Generally speaking, 1 to 3 tenths. So it'll be enough to cause some travel trouble here for sure, maybe even a few power outages. And then North Carolina, we continue to have some variance in the models, but we see a pretty decent chance of ice sneaking up close to the triangle, close to 64 here, but more than likely across southeastern portions of North Carolina, in particular, Sampson and Pender and Duplin and some of those other counties in that general area here, all the way down to Camp Lejeune. Here is a look at snowfall from the NAM model. Not going to talk too much about the Ozarks. You all know you're getting hit hard with snow here, probably a foot or more. This is on top here of what we had already so far today. But Kentucky, Southern Illinois, we do have the potential to see 4 to 6 inches. I've seen some people asking about Nashville, and we could see a few inches in Nashville. The NAM mainly just has a couple, but there's a possibility this could still shift south a little bit or north. And then we're going to have kind of a more chaotic forecast for the central portions of Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. Generally speaking, about an inch showing up, but this could come in bursts, not a steadier snow. So we could have difficult travel here on Thursday across this area, stretching into western portions of Pennsylvania and northern West Virginia as well. Now I'm going to take you east here so we can see what's coming into the mid-Atlantic region. And let me back this up just a second here. So this is Wednesday night snow, Wednesday and Wednesday night snow. Generally speaking, a few inches around Raleigh, an inch or two around Charlotte, Greensboro, depending on which model you like. And then around Asheville and Hickory, and in the foothills region, we kind of get gypped here as the system jumps across the mountains and reforms off the coast. Now, some of our models are showing this area kind of filling in with a little bit more snow, but you can see where it's obviously going to be heavier, and that's eastern Virginia and northeastern North Carolina. If you're in the Raleigh area proper here, this is a very big variance from southern Wake County all the way up to places like Lewisburg. We literally go from 1 to 9 inches if you look at all the possibilities with all the models. And there could be sleet that cuts down on some of that as well in the southern portion of this. So a very tricky forecast. We are going to see the accumulation starting here. It looks like right at about lunchtime or so around Raleigh. You can see here 17Z, that is 12. So right around lunchtime, and then it gets worse towards the end of the afternoon, especially east of Raleigh. And then the evening is when our rates are going to be heaviest. We're talking between about 6 and 11 o'clock tomorrow night, and still some snow accumulating overnight tomorrow night as well. Now, the second piece that comes through here could dump more on top of this. And if you look here at this 12-hour snowfall, and let me take this back a little bit, this is what can fall during the day on Thursday. Now, the mountains will certainly see that snow. But we do have the potential to see some accumulations all the way down to places like Columbia, Greenville, Spartanburg, Greenwood, Fayetteville. All of these are showing about an inch of snow, and the ground's going to be cold here. So I think it is going to try to stick to the pavement and certainly the grass. So this second wave, something we do need to keep an eye on, and I'll be looking at it again here tomorrow for you all. And don't be mad at me if this forecast ends up changing. We don't need to be unhinged like this Alabama fan was the other day. I think that's pretty funny. But I'm going to do my best to just give you what I think is going to happen here. So the National Weather Service, I like this forecast, 1 to 2 inches in Raleigh. Could see more on the northern side of town. Elizabeth City, 6 to 8. You can see the totals are a little bit lower here, as we've talked about here around Charlotte, Greensboro, Shelby, and Asheville, even Murphy. For the state of North Carolina. And I don't think we're going to see anything really for the Outer Banks or the Wilmington area other than maybe some frozen precipitation. Probably not the Outer Banks, more so the Inner Banks and interior parts of eastern North Carolina. This could be a problem for this ice to get up to close to half an inch around Goldsboro and Clinton. We have to keep an eye on that. There's a chance this could shift north a little bit. And we've seen this with a lot of storms at the buzzer. Things have shifted north. It's also possible it could shift in the other direction. And we're just not really going to know until it happens. Here's Virginia. We're not going to look at ice this time in Virginia, but we are going to see heavy snow in the southeast on both peninsulas here, especially across Northampton County, especially around the middle peninsula. Even the northern neck could see a few inches, but we're looking mainly at Norfolk, Portsmouth, Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, the Hampton Roads region that has the potential to see a foot of snow, according to the official forecast. Richmond, about half a foot is possible. Charlottesville, about 3 to 4 inches max. Lynchburg over to Roanoke, a few inches here. Danville, Martinsville, we're looking at several inches of snow and quite a bit across the mountains where we've had that flooding, unfortunately. And then looking farther north and east, You can see here Northampton County up to 8 inches, 5 or 6 across Accomack County here in Virginia, 3 to 6 across the rest of southeastern Maryland. When you go up to the Bay, though, things definitely come down quite a bit to an inch or less around the district in Baltimore here and Philadelphia as well. There'll be some snow, there'll be some slick spots, but we're not talking a major storm here. Now, if this adjusts some, if this comes up, or if the storm cranks up a little bit more, there is certainly some high end potential. You can see on the map as much as 20 inches in places like Matthews here and Gloucester County, 16, 18 inches. So there's certainly some upside to this storm. Even Raleigh, Rocky Mount, an upside of 6 to 8 inches. That is if our storm gets stronger or shifts a little bit farther to the west. It's also possible we see these amounts cut down significantly depending on what happens here. So just keep in mind, we do need to be prepared for a more extended stretch of bad weather here and heavier amounts of snow that could shut things down through the rest of the week and maybe even beyond that. Even in Kentucky and southern West Virginia, there's some chance we could see 8 to 10 inches of fresh snow, unfortunately, on top of what we've dealt with. Now, these maps conflict a little bit between the two offices, but you can see potentially close to a foot in Richmond, 16 inches around the Hampton Roads area, 14 inches on the eastern shore of Virginia. And then it comes down quite a bit once we get north of 64, and especially towards the DMV area, just a few inches at the highest end here. Now, southern Maryland, Fredericksburg, we could see 6, 7 inches near the mouth of the Potomac. The Bay Area here, obviously more to the south. But even South Jersey, we have that potential to see 7, 8 inches from Wildwood up to AC, Atlantic City. Middle Delaware, a few inches are possible here. And we could see a few around Philly and up to New York City. I don't have the map for that, just kind of depending on how this all plays out here. The other story is the cold. I talked about it before, but look at these low temperatures here over the next few nights. 20 to 30 below in Nebraska, 10 below or more in Topeka and Kansas City and Wichita, near zero in Tulsa, probably even below zero in Tulsa, depending on how much snow we end up getting. And even teens and 20s all the way down into parts of the deep south, south of I-20. Mid 20s in southeast Louisiana, except south of Lake Pontchartrain, and as cold as 40 degrees in places like Weslaco here. Very cold in Chicago as well. And I think that was the wind chill. Oh, maybe I was wrong here. Wind chill. There we go. Parent temperature. That's even worse, unfortunately, here. 30 to 40 below in some areas here of Iowa and Nebraska and South Dakota here tomorrow morning. Wind chills will be in the teens in the deep south, single digits in central Texas, and below zero in far northern Texas. And they stay very cold until we get to the end of the week before temperatures do start to rebound. So those are the low temperatures. I'm going to take you to the eastern United States here, and you can see it is eventually coming. Florida, we're warm tomorrow. Then it gets a lot colder at the end of the week, especially around the Bay Area where we're in the 30s here by Saturday morning. You can see teens and 20s in the Carolinas and Virginia where it snows hard. These numbers could end up lower than this. We could see single digits in some of these locations as things clear out for Saturday morning. Stays chilly on Sunday, but then temperatures are expected to rebound after that. And let's look at the Northeast as well here real quick. And you can see here, while it is cold across New England now, with more snow cover, it's just going to stay cold. The only thing that helps us out here is cloud cover, both on the coast and coming across the lakes. So that's all I've got for everybody. I know I went long today just because a lot of folks that I know in the Raleigh area have been asking me some more detail on what we're going to get and when. So I did want to spend a little extra time talking about that for those of you who are watching. And I do appreciate that. And I want to just close out in a word of encouragement and say that God has been good to me. And as a Christian, I have to give God all the glory and credit and honor for this day and this ability to be able to help folks out. Psalm 19:1, New King James Version says, "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows his handiwork." Everything's been created by God, in my personal belief, and we've been given these gifts. And no matter what happens with the weather, this is all blessed to us from God, and we've got the opportunity to be a blessing to others because of how we've been blessed. So I just want to encourage you all here in these difficult times to stay encouraged by the work of God, by the beauty and his majesty and his handiwork. And for those of you that are in the storm ravaged areas right now, just know that it's going to get worse before it gets better. But we are all praying for you. I have not had to go through a major disaster like that, thank the Lord. But I have friends and family who have, and believe me, I've seen some of it firsthand. It is ugly, but God is still in charge. God is still good. And I wanted to share that good news with you all here this evening. So I will catch up with you all again here tomorrow. Hope everybody has a blessed evening. And for those of you with kids, try to hang in there. Maybe we'll get a snow day in here tomorrow. Have a blessed day. See ya.